Hello, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Unbeatable. My name is Margaret Ellis Raymond, and today we are interviewing Jodi, who is the program director for Mended Little Hearts and Mended Hearts. Hello, Jodi. Welcome.
Hi, Margaret. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Of course. So before we get started, I wanted to ask a little bit about you and how you got into Mended Little Hearts. Do you have a history of a heart defect or someone in your family?
Yes, so I actually started in 2005 as a volunteer because my third son was born with a severe congenital heart defect. And he was born in 2003. And at that time, Mended Little Hearts hadn't been started yet. And so I looked everywhere for support, for someone to talk to, for some kind of connection, and there was nothing available for me. And I felt like, okay, why is this not a thing? Like, why isn't there a support group in my area? And when Mended Hearts started the Mended Little Hearts program, then they asked me if I wanted to start a chapter. So I actually started the ninth chapter in the nation. And then in 2007, I became staff for the Mended Little Hearts program.
Fantastic. Oh, that's so exciting. Your journey kind of brought you to a wonderful community.
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, do you know a little bit of how Mended Little Hearts got started?
Of course. Mended Little Hearts. So Mended Hearts started in 1951, actually in Boston, Massachusetts. We're turning 70 we turned 70 this year. And in 2004, one of our national leaders, Tita Hutchins, said there was a need for people, parents of children with heart defects, that was different than the normal acquired heart disease support needs. Now, Mended Hearts was supporting families even before Mended Little Hearts got started, but more and more they became aware of this unique kind of need. And so they started Mended Little Hearts in 2004. We had two groups, two chapters, one in actually Hollywood, Florida, and Fresno, California were our first two.
Great. Could you share what's the mission of Mended Little Hearts and Mended Hearts?
Yes, the mission is to inspire hope and improve the quality of life of heart patients and their families through peer-to-peer support, education, and advocacy.
So there's two different organizations under your heading. So there's Mended Hearts and then Mended Little Hearts. Could you share a little bit about the differences between the two?
Yeah, so they're two unique programs, and yet they work together. We're through the two programs, we're actually able to support families and patients across the lifespan. So from before birth, actually, throughout all of adulthood into advanced age. And it's really important that we're able to do that because heart disease is a lifelong disease for many people who are born with heart defects. So one of the things that Mended Little Hearts does, the Mended Little Hearts program does, is we are specifically geared towards families with children with congenital heart defects.
Okay, interesting. Even though Mended Little Hearts would still help adults who have congenital heart disease, right?
Yes, absolutely. So there are adults with congenital heart disease in the Mended Little Hearts program and the Mended Hearts program because each program kind of fills a need. So when they're in as part of the Mended Little Hearts program, they get to work with the families. They're very inspirational. Our Rock Your Scar awareness campaign, the many different things that they participate in, and even as group leaders, that a lot of them are group leaders and they're amazing leaders of our Mended Little Hearts groups, but they're also in Mended Hearts because they need that peer-to-peer support too, that the parents can't provide for them. Only other patients like them can provide.
Okay. Could you jump into a couple examples of different organizations or different, well, not organizations, different programs that both of these organizations do?
Yes. So we have a lot of different programs. So we do a lot of things under support. So that would be our chapters, our visiting program, our Bravery Bag Program, our awareness campaigns. We have several awareness campaigns that go on all in hopes of providing that peer-to-peer support with patients and families. And then we also have a big education arm. So we do webinars and conferences and videos, and we have all these materials, the Mended Heart Guide, Mended Little Heart Guide. And then we also do advocacy in terms of teaching people to advocate for themselves, either not just legislative advocacy, but when they are talking to their doctor, we have 7 steps to become an empowered patient. And if they want to talk to their representatives, we help them to do that as well.
Great. Oh, fantastic. That sounds wonderful. I was on your website a little bit and just saw a couple things that you guys do, which is fantastic. In what ways does Mended Little Hearts or Mended Hearts help the CHD community in terms of research?
So Mended Little Hearts as a program doesn't get engaged with doing its own research in terms of peer reviewed research, because there are other organizations that are doing a great job of that. Children's Heart Foundation, for one, American Heart Association does that, and of course the National Institutes of Health. There are a lot of different places that are already doing that research, and so we don't do that research ourselves, but what we do is we participate in research that's available. So when we learn of a study, with if it meets certain criteria, we will invite our membership, which is about, I think we have about 17,000 members just in the Mended Little Hearts program, 70,000 members in both. And we will invite them to participate in that study, and we will explain the benefits of that study. And the beauty of that is a lot of times the people who do the study will come back and they'll explain why this is so important, and they'll explain the results of the study. We did one on parental stress, for example, one time with the lovely people at M.E.R in Delaware, and that was amazing. It was a really good study. We were in it from creating the study and the questions and everything through to the reporting of the data. So that was really important. The other thing we do is we help people to understand clinical trials and what it means to get involved in clinical trials. In fact, we're launching a clinical trial awareness program in a few months, and that ought to be even enhancing people's ability to get involved in clinical trials. There was one trial, the FUEL trial, that was going on, and it's still going on. And we explained that to people when they came up with the findings. We explained the findings through a webinar with some other organizations. So that was really a good way to get people involved.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. So basically what you do is you do the scoping out and then you broadcast to everyone, hey, there's some research happening. Maybe if you want to get involved, here's some information. And if, like, let's say I want to see that, your posts about different research and trials or things that are happening, where would I go? Would I just go to your website, or do you have like a Twitter or a Facebook, or what's the best option for me to find all of that?
So the answer is yes, we have all of those things. So we are creating a new section on our website. Our website is being reorganized right now, and we're creating a new section just for clinical trials. And so that will be, you'll be able to see that there. We also have on social media, we do many posts. So we Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Mended Little Hearts is actually on TikTok now too, and LinkedIn. And we will post different things on there. We'll also post things in our blog. So you will see some things that are coming out or new in the Mended Little Hearts blog. So we will post them there. And we have a YouTube channel. So the video on the FUEL trial, which has had a lot of views so far, is available on the Mended Little Hearts National YouTube channel.
Fantastic. Oh, very cool. I'll have to go check that out. I've done some research, but not too much in the world of trials and different things like that. So I wanted to research that. So this is perfect. I'll link all of the things that you mentioned in the description of this video as well, so that others can get there easily. So I've been on your website and I've seen a couple of different things regarding regional conferences. And I know in the time of COVID, we're going to date ourselves when I say this, but in the time of COVID, most of those are going to be virtual. And I wanted to know, for patients and families that are interested in these conferences, how would they get involved? And I know you kind of already answered that with your social media information, but what are some conferences that you might be holding recently or will hold soon?
Yeah, so every year we have, except for this year, I hate to tell you we're not going to do it this year, but we have a substitute. So every year we've had the CHD symposium, and that's been Mended Little Heart's big conference. We do that in conjunction with a leadership training. So the CHD symposium is a separate conference. And that conference got started in 2014 because the more we grew in Mended Little Hearts, we had chapters all over the place. What we realized is different things were happening in different areas. Like one center may be doing this, but another center was doing something slightly different. And we thought, well, what if some of this information is national so everyone has access to it, right? The other thing that was happening is parents were feeling like there was nothing new for their kids. Like they were getting really frustrated that they felt like there was no innovation happening. There was nothing cutting edge. There was nothing happening that was going to help save their child. And a lot of them have kids where there is no cure. We say surgery is not a cure. So they were feeling hopeless. And that just won't do when you have an organization that inspires hope. So what we did is we created the CHD Symposium in 2014. The first one was in Indianapolis, and that conference brought experts from all over the nation together to talk about innovations in CHD treatment and care. Now, this conference does not really lend itself to virtual because it's a long and the different professionals are being pulled into a bunch of different conferences that are also virtual, and the parents are in virtual school with their children. So we felt like this year we were going to take a break. What we are doing instead is something called Conversations with series, and we're having conversations with different people that care for families and children with heart defects. And it's pretty exciting. The conversation with a cardiothoracic surgeon was our first one, and that video is available on our YouTube channel. And it's really good. It's very interesting.
Oh, fantastic. Another reason to go check out your YouTube channel.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so now we're going to dive into some of your programs more in depth. So I heard a little bit about the Bravery Bag Program. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yes. The Bravery Bag Program is a program for families that helps them have not just a bag full of stuff, which is nice when you're in the hospital and you need deodorant or you need a toothbrush and toothpaste, but it's to provide a lifeline to them, to say to them, hey, there are other people out there who've been through this and we get it. We're giving you this bag because we're here, you're not alone, and we care about you. So what the Bravery bags are is they are a bag full of toiletry items, comfort items, educational items, and some fun stuff too that we give to the families while their child is in the hospital for surgery or a medical procedure. And we give them to the hospitals. Sometimes the hospitals give them out, sometimes they let us give them out, which is really nice and fun to have that connection. The Bravery Bag Program, the reason it's so important is because there are only 125 hospitals that do surgery for children with CHD. And so sometimes you end up having to go to another city, another state. And people tell us all the time, I did not have what I needed with me. And so when they get this, they are all excited that they have some things, some snacks, toiletry items, different things in the hospital while they're going through this very traumatic situation. And I'll even have people call me 4 years, 5 years later, still crying about getting that bag. That's how much those mean to them.
Wow. So how does a family like sign up for this, or is it like spontaneous? Like you just know that there's someone at the hospital who's having a heart surgery and you just show up? Like how how does that happen?
No, so where when someone has started a Bravery Bag program, and typically this is with our chapters, but you can also start a Bravery Bag program even if you don't have a chapter. When someone has a Bravery Bag program, for example, in my chapter, we deliver 20, 25 bags a month to the hospital, and the social workers give them out to the inpatient families. That's the majority of the time, that's what happens. But sometimes they will get to deliver them. Now, if we don't have a group there, we really can't. We don't have a national Bravery Bag Program because it's really expensive. And the groups, they collect items, they get donations for items on a local level, and they're able to fill the bags. We provide the bag and a few of the items to the groups through national fundraising, but on a local level, they fill the bag. So we really need someone doing a program on a local level to have that program.
So I went on your website and I saw that you have something called accredited visiting, which was really interesting and I had not heard of it before. So I did some research and I would love for you to share more information about it.
Well, the accredited visiting program is the cornerstone of what we do. Mended Heart started because four heart patients started talking about their heart surgery or their heart event after their surgery. And they found out how much that helped for them to talk about it with each other. And they were encouraged by their surgeon, Dwight E. Harkin, who is one of the fathers, I think the father of heart surgery. So he is also one of our founders, and we always think very fondly of him. So they started talking about their heart surgery. And what they found is not only did it make them feel better to have someone hear their concerns, their thoughts, but they actually felt better when they helped someone else. And if you think about it, when you go through a bad event or a hard event or a traumatic event, and you're able to make something good out of it, it really helps you heal from it. So the accredited visiting program was started to have some sort of training and criteria for people who would go on to become visitors. Now, the visitors, they will visit with other patients. So before COVID, they were visiting in person in the hospital. They visit by telephone. They visit by email. And now we have video chat thanks to the wide range use of Zoom. And we were actually able to even provide hospitals with free iPads. So if someone's in the hospital, a family, they can get a visit right from the iPad that the hospital provides for free. So what happens is the volunteer will go through a lot of training to become accredited, and they have to be reaccredited every year and sign confidentiality statements. And we make sure they are trained in active listening, empathy, compassion, diversity sensitivity, rules of conduct like no medical advice, no comparing, and HIPAA and privacy considerations. And once they go through all this training, if they're going to visit in person, they do observed visits. Now, if they're visiting online or on the telephone, then we have an interview with them and we talk to them and we make sure that they are positive and that they will be a good visitor. And then they have to reaccredit, like I said, every year to keep that accreditation. Now, if they're going to visit in the hospital, they also have to meet the hospital requirements to visit in the hospital.
Okay, that makes sense. Wonderful. That's such a cool program. And, before the time of COVID, it must have been really nice to just have someone show up and be like, hi, like I've gone through something similar and let's have a conversation about it. And now it can still continue with the use of Zoom and video conferencing. And that's fantastic. That's wonderful. I love it.
Yes, I would have loved to have had a visit too. I really was desperate to talk to someone, and this program wasn't available. Mended Little Hearts was still very new. It wasn't available to me when my son was in the hospital, and I wish it had been. But another thing that's really interesting about it is there was a peer-reviewed study done by a woman in Indianapolis, and she'd studied our visitors, and what she found is actually that when you're a visitor, it actually improves your quality of life. It makes you feel more positive. And that's pretty exciting too when you think about it. Not only are you helping others, but you're also helping yourself.
Hmm. That's fantastic. So in her research, she found the people that were accredited visitors felt better. How did she find any information on patients?
Because the study was on the impact on the actual visitors themselves. So she didn't, but we had another study later that we used CMS data. Now, this was not a peer reviewed study, but we took CMS data and had it analyzed, and we compared places with a Mended Hearts visiting program and places without. And what we found is readmission rates for heart failure patients were actually lower in hospitals that had a visiting program, which, as you know, that's really exciting because if people go back in the hospital within a certain amount of time for heart failure, the hospital does not get reimbursed for that. So we're actually helping the hospital, we're helping the patients. It also analyzed them in terms of how they felt about their heart disease and their likeliness of adhering to medication and treatment plans. And that was higher in the places that had a visit versus the places that didn't.
That's great. It's kind of like having your own therapist, but like a therapist that's gone through exactly what you've gone through. So the empathy is just so much more than it ever would have been.
Yes, it's like instant credibility because you love your doctors, and mostly, I mean, mostly people love their doctors and nurses and all the healthcare staff that are phenomenal. But at the end of the day, unless they've gone through it, they don't know what it's like to be in your shoes. And talking to someone who has been in your shoes can make all the difference in the world. It just makes you feel so connected, like you're not alone, and it feels so heard and cared about as well.
That's amazing. That's so great. Yeah, I definitely would guess that my parents would have benefited from communicating with someone who, like a parent that had gone through something similar when they had me. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
And I remember after I started my support group, and like I said, there was no one around for me to talk to. Joshua, my son, was diagnosed at 20-week ultrasound, and I had no one to talk to. I was scared out of my mind. And I have wonderful family and friends, but that was not the same. And I remember after I started my Mended Little Hearts group in Richmond, Virginia, and one of the women who came in was probably 7, 8 months pregnant with a child who had a very similar heart defect to my son, who was then 2, and he had had 2 surgeries already, and her child was going to need the same surgeries. And she said, "Which one is your child?" And I remember looking at her face and seeing all the fear, all the tension that I had felt, and how hard that was. And I said, "See the one running circles around the room? That's mine."
That's great.
And I saw this, not that it makes it all better and you're not scared, but this just flood of relief, like, okay, there is a possibility for hope now. And that hope just really can make a difference in your journey.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, what are some different volunteer opportunities that different chapters have?
Well, we have so many volunteer opportunities just as an organization because some people want to get really involved and get very busy, and other people just want to do certain things but not others. So you can start a chapter if you want to in your area. If you don't have a chapter in your area, you can start one. And that, I will tell you, it's not a small amount of work, but it is so rewarding in the grand scheme of things because you're connecting people like you. It makes a difference. And that right now we're connecting on Zoom. But you can also do things like you could start a Bravery Bag program, even light bags, regular Bravery bags, and that can make a really big difference for your hospital or your cardiology practice.
Mm.
You can also get involved in our awareness campaigns. So we have Rock Your Scar awareness campaign, which happens in February of every year. And that's a very exciting campaign where we're trying to show how people not only survive, but they can thrive. And their CHD does not define them. We also have a Share Your Heart campaign going on right now that is about how we share our hearts with each other. And that's Mended Hearts and Mended Little Hearts all across the organization. So people can get involved in that. They can share photos, share their stories. And also, you can always share your story. So we look for blog posts. There's a way to create a blog post, and it has to go through our media company and it has to meet certain criteria, but you can share your story, and we're glad to do that. We also share stories in Heartbeat magazine. So we have this great magazine that comes out quarterly. It's won all sorts of awards. And if you become a member with a donation level, there is free membership, because we never want membership to be a barrier. And that's another way to get involved, is join and get the information about us. But there is a paid membership that is a $20 for the whole year membership, and you get Heartbeat magazine. And so you can get that magazine, but you can also share some of your stories, accomplishments, and if it qualifies, we can put it in Heartbeat magazine. So that's super exciting. And also another thing, we're a nonprofit fundraising. If you want to do a fundraiser, you want to get involved in a fundraiser, we have some during the year. We're always going to welcome that. We rely on donations from individuals. So we have a World of Support virtual race coming up in the fall.
Oh, very cool. And I'm assuming you're going to send me all these wonderful links, and then just going to put them right at the end in the description of this video, and anyone who's interested can jump to those.
Yes, and we will definitely share all of that with you.
Oh, it gets me so excited. I know I don't have the time, but I'm like, I want to do all of it, and I can't.
I know, believe me too.
Yeah, like, oh my goodness. Do you have any upcoming events? And I'm assuming that they're going to be virtual.
We have the Conversations with series, which are our webinars, and they are continuing. They'll be continuing. Our next one is on May 13th, and it's a conversation with Margaret, who's president and CEO of the Adult Congenital Heart Association. So that ought to be really good. At the end of May, I believe it's the 24th, we will have a conversation with a nutrition and feeding specialist and talk about what they do and how they work with families. So we have those coming up. We have a few more scheduled for the rest of the summer that don't have dates yet nailed down. We also, as I said, we have the clinical trial education campaign and webinar series that should be coming up this summer, starting this summer. So that'll be very exciting. In terms of conferences, I don't believe we have any conferences going on this summer. We have a couple of Mended Hearts conferences, but not Mended Little Hearts regional conferences. They are online, but they are not Mended Little Hearts conferences. And then we will have World of Support virtual race for World Heart Day in August and September.
Great, cool, wonderful. And again, all those links are going to be in the description of this video.
Yes.
Fantastic. Cool. So then it comes to my last question. Is there anything that we didn't touch upon that you wanted to mention?
I believe that support is really underestimated. And I remember when I found out about my son, and my first thought is, I want to know if he's going to survive and what I need to know to make that happen and get him the surgeries he needs. But my second thought is, I really feel like I need to talk to someone who's been through this. I need to connect with someone else. And people think, oh, support, it's just an emotional thing, it's just a soft thing. But I'll tell you what, it changes lives, and not just your emotional health, but your physical health, because your emotions can dictate a lot of your physical health. Your blood pressure, heart disease, all of that is sometimes started with stress levels. So I want people to understand the power of that connection and what it means to the thousands and thousands of people who get involved with this organization, and invite people, if they need support, if they want to talk to someone who really gets them, just call us up.
Great, wonderful, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jodi, for joining us and sharing your organization's mission, and all the information that you shared with us will be in the description of this video. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It's been a pleasure, and I'm so grateful for all you're doing to build awareness around the things that are going on and things people can get involved in to make their lives better. I really appreciate it.